Hello, this will be sort of a quick start guide on Matinee for the hatintime editor. Just sort of a quick thing and showing how we can get this thing to spin like that, 360 degrees around itself. So if I playtest the water rift template a little bit that I've got here, the back block here spins nice 360 degrees over itself, and the little thing over here under the timepiece doesn't. So the first thing we'll need to do is, as it's a static mesh actor, we'll need to convert it into a mover. And you'll notice it looks kind of the same, it has that lighting change to it. And then we'll also need to set collision type back to block all, as when you convert it into a mover, it will lose its collision. You'll just have to set that back on. So with it selected now, we can go into Kismet, and you can see the rest of the Kismet in the template here. There's the mission intro here where the Matinee controls the camera, and then here's the one for the spike block where the Matinee controls that block over there. So I will just make a new Matinee really quick and then open it. One thing is make sure to select this thing when you do this, as it'll autofill it for you. So add a new empty group. We'll just call it spinning block. Yeah, I know that's not spelled right at all. Then I'll add a movement track to it. And that'll add our first sort of keyframe here on the timeline. And we'll drag this to the end. And this is sort of like a selector thing here. It basically moves across the timeline. So we'll drag this to the end here. And you can press enter, or you can actually add a key here. And what you'll notice here, both these keys now are red. That's because they're curved. And that'll sort of create an interesting movement where it'll slow down and start up, and then it'll actually stop before it loops. We don't really want that. We want something linear, so I'll just set these both to linear, and they'll turn green when they're back to linear. So one thing you can do is if you select the end keyframe there, you'll notice at the bottom here in the Matinee, it'll actually have a sort of like a recording symbol. And what we can do is normally we'd be able to just rotate this like 135 degrees or something and then tell it to play. And it'll follow that pretty nicely. But what you'll find out is if you try to, let me delete that data and add a new one. Oops. Also, you can actually set this here back to linear, and all your new keys will be linear too, instead of having to edit each one. If I set this to 360, it loops back to 0. And that really doesn't get me anywhere. So what we'll want to do is actually split translation and rotation here. And this basically allows us to actually set numbers individually for each of these different things. And so this here is the z-axis, the blue one. You can kind of see it down here, this little thing in the bottom left. So the blue here is the z. So we'll find z, go across from it into its second key point or keyframe. We'll actually type in 360 here. You can just right click the keys to get the different things like the interrupt mode and the value. And you can even set time, so if you don't want it to be at 5 seconds, you can set it to 4 or something like that. So if you set it to actually 360, you'll notice it plays, and that works all nice. And you can actually loop it and everything. This is just sort of a play test thing. So it'll loop around, and it'll loop very smoothly. So there's a few things missing here. If you were to open the level now and try to play it, the Matinee won't do anything because it doesn't have Kismet telling it to. So we can actually just take this level loaded here, and we can actually just drag it to play. And that'll play just like the rest of the other blocks in the level. You can also grab a new one if you don't have one right here. Just through the event menu in Kismet, you can hook that up. It works the same. Then in the actual, in the actual node itself in Kismet, you'll notice that there's a looping checkbox here, and we'll want that so it does loop when you do get into the level. So I can play from here really quick. And I go look over at it, and it's spinning very nicely. It's a little fast though, and it does loop around and everything, but it's a little fast. So we can actually go back into Kismet and change the play rate here. And we can change it to something a little lower, like 0.4. And then when we get back into the level, it'll be moving in a much friendlier rate, nice and smooth here. And that's pretty much how you just get a really easy 360 spin on an object like that. Thanks for watching. I'll probably be making a few more videos on this stuff.